The next step is to check the waypoint mission. We have to make sure that the altitude of all the waypoints is much higher than any object between the waypoints. Here we have trees that are probably 30 or 40 meters tall, so we need to make the altitude higher. We have to make sure that the final waypoint is near to the home point, and we have to make sure that the actions for the final waypoint must include tilt the camera is set to 0. This will make the camera horizontal when the drone lands. If the camera is pointing down when the drone lands, it may bash into a rock or something on the ground. You don't want that. Then resave the mission. To control the mission settings, you have to press this button here, which has a rectangle with a cogwheel in it. When you click on that, you'll be able to adjust your mission settings. The first one is heading mode. We want the heading mode to be towards the next waypoint. So the camera is always facing forward towards the next waypoint. The finish action we want none. When that happens, the drone will hover in place over the home point and we can land it safely manually. The path mode we want to be straight lines, and the cruising speed we can use about 15 kilometers per hour. So we put that up to 15 kilometers per hour. The maximum flight speed won't actually go above the cruising speed. The default curve size is 0 because we're not using curves on this mission. We're using straight line. The default gimbal pitch is focus POI. That is fine. And the rotation directions are managed by the instructions that we will give to each of the waypoints. Once you have set the mission settings, you can batch edit your waypoints. To batch edit the waypoints, to make changes to all the waypoints in the same way, click on the spanner. There are two options here, a pencil and a square, and you want to select the square. When you select the square, you have the option down here to select all the waypoints. So let's select all the waypoints. And once you've done that, you have the option to delete them or edit them. We want to edit them. So we want to make sure that the altitude of the drone above each waypoint is quite high because there are some tall trees in this area. So we're going to put it up to about 80 meters relative to the ground. So if the ground goes up a little bit, the drone will go up a little bit and stay 80 meters above the ground. We are going to use the cruising speed that we set in the mission settings. The curve size is 0 because we set straight lines in the mission settings. The gimbal pitch should be focus POI, and at the bottom here we have the opportunity to add actions to the drone at each waypoint. So if we add an action, let's say we want the drone to stay for a certain length of time at each waypoint. Let's say we want the drone to stay for 3 seconds at each waypoint. Next thing we want the drone to do is to align the drone with north. So north is always at the top of the picture. So north is represented by 0 degrees. Next, we would like the drone to tip the camera down and get a view of the forest from the top down. So tilt the camera. We want to tilt the camera down minus 90 degrees. So now the camera is pointing straight down. We want the camera to stabilize, so we're going to stay for 2 seconds. Then we want the camera to take a picture. So take a photo. Stay for another 2 seconds to make sure the camera doesn't move until the photo is completely finished. And then tilt the camera up to let's say 30 degrees so that it's looking at the next waypoint. So using this program, the camera will take one picture at each of the waypoints. Next, we can go back to our mission settings, and if we move forward, we can have a look at each waypoint individually and make sure that everything okay. You can make sure that the instructions have gone through. We're going to stay for 3 seconds, rotate the aircraft to north, tilt the camera down, take a picture, and then tilt the camera back up to 30 degrees and move on to the next waypoint. So there are many waypoints in this mission. And when you get to the last waypoint, you have to tilt the camera not to 30 degrees but to 0. So we're going to change that to 0 so that the camera is horizontal when the drone lands. If you have the camera pointing down when the drone lands, then it might bash the camera on something on the ground as it comes into land. That's done. After you've changed the mission settings and done the batch editing, you must remember to resave the mission. If you don't resave the mission, your changes will be lost. So after you finish making your changes, click on the disk symbol here, and this little pop-up will come up, and it'll ask you to save your mission as a particular file name. If you click on No, you can change the file name. If you click on OK, it will overwrite the old mission with the new settings. Number 16 is to check on the aircraft settings. To check on the aircraft settings, you have to click on the cog symbol in the upper right hand corner of the screen and select the aircraft tab and scroll down and make changes to all of these settings. Make sure that settings on the screen match these settings on the instruction card. So to change the aircraft settings, you have to click on the gear symbol in the top right hand corner of the screen. When you do that, you will open your settings menu and you would like to select aircraft settings to check on the aircraft settings. The first one is the go home altitude. You want to make that fairly high, especially when there are trees around. So we're going to put that up to 90 meters. The maximum altitude is 100 meters. That's fine. Don't worry about dynamic home point. The signal loss behavior for manual flying should always be return to home. That means the drone will come home if there's any kind of problem. You want to turn on all your safety settings. Collision avoidance on, landing protection on, precision landing on, and vision positioning system should all be on. You'd also want to turn on log flights because that will store information about the flight in the memory of the tablet. So if anything goes wrong, you can access that file and figure out what went wrong. This air data UAV, you don't have to worry about that. Auto takeoff mode, you don't really have to worry about that either. Gimbal mode, your fault, I'm not quite sure what that means. You want to turn on the front LEDs of the drone. The front LEDs will represent what is the front of the drone so that you can position the drone correctly when you are landing. So the left-right controls will work properly when you are landing. When you are finished, click on the X and close the aircraft settings, and now you are ready to fly. To fly the drone, you really need 3 people. One person is the pilot and will control the drone from the controller. The second person is the logbook keeper, and she will write down instructions from the pilot in case anything is going wrong with the drone. Things like altitude and speed and where the drone is. And the third person is the spotter. She will keep an eye on the drone, and if it looks like the drone is going to bump into a tree or any other kind of obstacle, she will shout out, stop, and then the mission will be terminated. To turn the drone on, you put the sticks to the middle and release. The propellers are now working,
เพราะอยากได้น้ำตาลมาก
And we're going to take the drone up and make sure that it's got a clear way up. Next thing, you want the camera on the screen. Press the go button. 100. No complaint from the lady this time. She's happy.